go through to here. I've had an instigation, I have. I think I've had a predilection, I have. Yes, I have. Because something struck a chord with me, you know, Vutu, because it's been coming through on my tablet. Well, it's been coming through on my tablet quite a lot lately, actually, that apparently the government has been having this government inquiry into the grooming gangs. Yes, they have, because it transpired that apparently in Telford they had a grooming gang, and in Rochdale they had a grooming gang, they did, and in Birmingham they had a grooming gang, they did, and in Manchester they had a grooming gang, and in Oxford they had a grooming gang, they did, and I think they had one in Portsmouth as well, and I think they had one in Glasgow. They've got these grooming, I think you know where we're going with it anyway. So, they've got grooming gangs all over the place, and the grooming gangs in Britain are the people that go around the place. I don't know, I think what it is the police have been trying to stop it getting out for about a decade. Yes! But it's been seeping out despite everything, because a lot of the girls have got older and they've got empowered and they've used their voices and their platforms and they've tried to get it out to save younger girls getting involved with the same subject. Yes! Yeah! So, you remember that Maggie Oliver? She tried to get it all out, didn't she? And she was shut up and she was castigated and, well, manipulated and ruined, wasn't she, really? But it didn't deter her. She just kept carrying on, beavering away, trying to stick up for them poor girls, didn't she? Yes, she blimmin' well did. And then you had that little Stephen Lennon chap, you know, the little pint-sized lad. Yes, yes. He tried to say something about the grooming gangs and about how these people, because apparently, right, the police didn't want to do anything about it because they were saying, well, at the end of the day, these girls, they might only be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, or maybe 15. I think 15 was a bit past it, you know, for these particular clientele. But anyway, basically, they were just child prostitutes. Yeah, that's what the children, that's what the children were, that's what they had to put up with, yeah, because the police didn't do shit. They didn't do anything. They were saying, oh, well, they said, oh, well, it's the kid's own fault, really, that they're going around with these 50-year-old men, 55-year-old men. And the police said, well, it's come out in the inquiry, the police said, well, they said, we didn't want to be called racist. So that's why we just let it go on, even though it's criminal, and the Children's Act of 1989 actually protects children and gives children independent rights from adults, that actually these police and other council people and other workers, I'm not going to say them, but you know the people whose job it is that are there to protect children and earn vast amount of taxpayers' money to do that job and probably pay their mortgages, probably have a couple of nice cars, you know what I mean, and probably take a load of foreign holidays and everything, because that's their job, to actually protect children, and they ain't done shit. No, they ain't done shit. That's exactly what's happened. They haven't done nish. Yeah, they just jellied all the children off, they did. They just fraggled them off. They really victimised them. They said, well, it's their own blimmin' fault, they're child prostitutes. What can we do about it? Blah, blah, blah. Because we couldn't do anything. It's because we didn't want to get called racist. Yeah, because apparently some of these men that were doing it, well, they weren't from Britain, Vutu. Transpired, it did. It transpired that they didn't come from Britain. No, I think they might have come from New Zealand. Yes, so apparently, I think, was it New Zealand or was it, I don't know, it might have been Sweden, or was it Denmark? Anyway, it was somewhere like that weren't British anyway. And then some of the police, they said, no, they didn't want to say anything on account of the perpetrator's religion, they said. They said, no, we didn't want to get called racist and we didn't want people saying that we're against their religion. Because apparently it turned out that the vast majority of these perpetrators were Catholics. Yeah, they were bloody Catholics. Can you believe it? Yes. And the police didn't want to say anything because they didn't want to get into trouble. They didn't want people to not like them. They didn't want to get their little feels hurt, did they? They wanted to be in with the big boys. They wanted to be in the gang. I mean, they didn't want to be left on the outside because everybody else was calling them names and not inviting them to the police Christmas ball and everything. No, so they just turned it over the page. They just said, oh, well, what can we do? Write it off, throw that in the bin. There's nothing we can do about it. The children are all prostitutes. And that's where John Wedger came in. Because I had a light bulb moment, I did, Vutu Voos. I think I had a predilection. I did, because I thought, hang about now, Gert, hang about. So, I mean, this was going on when I was a girl, to be honest. It was, yes, it bloody well was. All over the country it was. So, in the last 10 years, it has been seeping out, despite the police's best efforts, as I think I've already sort of made plain. And John Wedgers has been around for about, well, the last 10 years as well, hasn't he? And he's used his position to stand on every platform and every podcast, every social media forum, all over the bleeding globe. I mean, you can get his bloody interviews in every language known to man. I mean, if you looked hard enough, you'd probably get his blooming interviews in Swahili, you would. Yeah, you would. Yes, talk Swahili, he would. Yeah, every language he's on there. You got him in Turkish, you got him in bleeding Polish, you got him in Ukrainian, you got him in bleeding Denmark and bleeding Dutch and German and French and all of them. Not that he talks them. Obviously, he can hardly talk bloody English, that prat. But anyway, yeah, if you look on the bleeding YouTube, oh, you've got all subtitles up. And there he is with his mad staring goggle eyes going on and on and on about children being the P word. Yeah, prostitutes. Yeah, that's what he was saying. And then I thought, well, isn't that funny? Because his language kind of marries up with what's coming out with this inquiry thing. All these inquiries that are coming to their final ruminations out in the public, well, in the zeitgeist, the media. Yeah. Well, makes you think, doesn't it? Because, I mean, there's a Children Act 1989 that actually does provide children with, well, protection and their own rights, individual of adults. So, there's no such thing as child prostitutes. I mean, there's no such thing as child bus drivers, is there? Or child doctors. There's no such thing as children that are taxi drivers, is there? There's no such thing as blooming child train drivers, is there? There's no such thing as child nurses, or child surgeons, or child bleeding teachers, or child blooming, I don't know. You just don't get it, do you? Hey? So, how come that he's been around really pushing the subject for over a decade with your Bill Baloney, that child prostitution is a real issue and that the police are, well, completely confounded by it and their hands were bleeding tied. Yeah, despite being promoted up and getting loads more dosh every bloody year and X amount of expenses and bonuses and Christ knows what, there's snouts in the bloody trough. And basically, none of them have lost their job. No, because, well, at first it's been, well, it's their own fault, they're child prostitutes, even though they're 11 and they're going around with like 55-year-old men. No, and now the police are saying, well, we didn't want to say anything because the perpetrators were from New Zealand. Yeah. We didn't want to be called racist. Yeah, and we didn't want people thinking that we were bigoted against their religion because they're bloody Catholics or something. Yeah, or Methodists. Or maybe they were Baptists. Maybe they were Hare Krishnas. I mean, I don't know what religion they were, but that's what the police are saying. So, I think I've got that Johnny Wedgers bleeding number, I have. Yeah, that's what he's been doing, isn't he? Because that's all he ever goes on about, doesn't he? 10 years worth of child prostitution, all the bloody time. Stupid bloody man, going on about bloody ghouls running around the woods. Idiot. Here, I've got your bloody number, Wedgemeister. We're all on to you, okay? We know what your bleeding game is. Yes, we bloody well do. Don't be voodoo for us. There's no such thing as child prostitutes. What there is a load of filthy, dirty old men what are criminals, and they're minor attracted, aren't they? Yes. It's probably what was happening in the mining towns, up in the northern towns, wasn't it? Yeah. So they shut down all the mines. I think we've been here before on that one, haven't we? Yeah. Because there's all these people going around that are minor attracted. So sometimes these dirty men, they get hold of a kid, and half of these kids, they ain't had no love. They're the most vulnerable kids. They're the ones that are in social services care. Yeah. So there you go. Makes you bloody think, doesn't it? Anyway, back to Wedger. We know what his bloody game is and we're not buying it. We weren't buying it 10 years ago and we're not buying it now, Mr. Wedgemeister. Bloody credibility bleeding overkill he is, isn't he, eh? Bloody stupid man. Oh well, Voodoo. Bye.